tools and processes that help streamline filling volunteer shifts, just making all of that a lot less cumbersome for you. So Elizabeth, I'll hand it back over to you for what does it really mean to recruit and retain volunteers, just amidst changing community needs, amidst, a changing landscape. It presents a whole new set of challenges.
Absolutely. So recruiting and retaining volunteers, a lot of these definitions are where we're just going to start from together. So recruiting and retaining, we're having a changing community. It requires intentional effort for every volunteer program. It isn't something that happens just naturally. You have to think about it. You have to plan for it. Navigating these changes is going to require assessing your community's needs. I think that's one thing we'll bring in these webinars. These are best practices, but only you can really think, what does my community need? What will we have to do internally to be effective, to keep our organization's mission central to everything that you're doing in your programming? And then from this foundation, you'll be able to create programming and build volunteer shifts that you can recruit with that know what the community needs are, communicate them effectively to your volunteer base. I think that's one of the things we did talk a little bit about as we were prepping for this, is just that moment of the balancing act between recruitment and retaining. And I may kick this over to Erica and Cody to start weighing in on, but I think that is a challenge in and of itself. You focus so hard on recruiting. Now you've got someone, that retaining them so that you're not right back in that cycle of having to recruit. And then, of course, knowing what Court shared earlier, you all had to recruit in numbers that you hadn't had to recruit at that volume before. So I think good lead in to just kind of kick it your way if you want to share a little bit about your program and then how you're starting to kind of think through what you addressed during the pandemic and now after. We'll kind of start there. And I think Cody, maybe ask you to take it away. We'll kick it to Erica halfway.
Sure. Thank you. Hey, everybody. Thank you for having us and thanks for being here. Like Elizabeth and Court talked about, we talked a little bit, and when I saw everyone's name in the chat, I just started to get like a little nervous. I was like, there's a lot of you. And seems like you probably know a lot of stuff. So we'll do our best to share what we know. And I think there is some good stuff. And also we can only talk about what we know and what we do. And so we appreciate you being here. But some background on the food bank. I think we did hear a little bit of stats, but yeah, there's been a huge growth in need as a result of the pandemic. And kind of looking pre-pandemic, we knew that 1 in 5 people in the Bay Area were at risk of hunger, which is a lot. And it's a really wealthy part of the country. We serve the 2 counties that touch the Golden Gate Bridge, so Marin County and San Francisco County. They are quite different. One's very rural and pretty large, and one is very urban and is San Francisco. And so we had to work very differently in both counties. But we bring in a lot of volunteers and try to make sure that we get the food out to everybody. And what it looked like pre-pandemic was 2 warehouses where people would come in 7 days a week. There would be 2 to 4 shifts a day. Shifts would range in size from 30 to 80 people. And it was pretty simple, straightforward tasks. People come in and sort produce or sort grains or things like that. They would get ready to go. And then our staff would send it out into the community through a network of partners. And so we were very much behind the scenes. And we really had a lot of the advantages that food banks have of being able to do large shifts with lots of people, and people love to come and volunteer, corporate groups, school groups, and then go to happy hour or go do something fun afterwards, in addition to the fun they had volunteering with us. And so we really leaned into that and had people come in and do really simple tasks that were great. And the pandemic caused a whole lot of that to change. And so I'll let Erica talk more about that.
Yeah, thank you, Cody, and thanks everyone. I'm really excited to be here. Yes, seeing that number increase, I will say, is a little nerve-wracking. So hope we do okay. The pandemic hit. Pre-pandemic, about 60% of our volunteer force was corporate groups. And when the pandemic hit and shelter in place happened, we were getting phone calls and emails back to back of just tons of cancellations. Folks who going back home, weren't able to go into the office, didn't really know what was going to happen during that time, safety wise and with the pandemic. So many folks were rightfully fearing wanting to be in large crowds. And so we had to respond. As Cody mentioned, we really relied on our partners and our community agencies. And when the pandemic hit, it affected them. Many of them were working indoors and had really small volunteer teams. And so they all had to close down. And we knew that we still needed to get food out to the community. And we knew that we were going to have to take on a bit of that. And so in response, we launched pop-up pantries, which what the name says, we thought they were going to pop up and they'd be up for a few months and then the pandemic would be over. And yet here we are a few years later, and we know that that's not the case, and that's not true. So we opened up about 30 pop-up pantries in San Francisco and Marin at the peak of the pandemic. And these were in community centers, school parking lots. We'd close down streets so that we can have a tent up. And we were really fortunate during this time because we were able to, our librarians of San Francisco, our emergency responders, so they were able to come out and help us with this. So they were helping us at our pop-up pantries, helping build bags, and at our main warehouse, where we also expanded our home delivered groceries program. Because folks were sheltering in place, we knew that many folks wouldn't be able to go out to their pantries or to the local pop-ups to receive food. So we wanted to make sure that we could get food to them. That put us at 3 warehouses and over 25 pop-up locations. And that's kind of where we still are, even in this kind of weird, because it's really not post-pandemic. We know that we're never going to go back to pre-pandemic. The world is never going to go back to that. And so now we're in this space where we're looking to be more sustainable and how we can continue our programming, and knowing that we need volunteers. And this is kind of where we're at now, with knowing that we need to retain volunteers and we need to recruit folks that we didn't have pre-pandemic, because we know that many of our corporate offices are still hybrid. Many of them have left the city. Many of them aren't going back. And so we're really trying to find a new volunteer force. And with the librarians back, we've been having to do a lot more outreach to folks that maybe didn't know who we were or maybe haven't come out in the past. And that's kind of where we're at now. We're serving about 55,000 households each week, about 1 million pounds of food each week, and then about nearly at the peak of the pandemic, we were serving nearly 80 million pounds of food from our warehouses. And even though that number has slightly decreased, we're at about 67 million now each year, which still very, very high. We know that we're not going to go back to what we were before, and really trying to find a way to continue being able to serve our community with dignity, respect, and with quality food. So yeah, that's a little bit about where we're at now.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think it's, when we talk about changing needs and navigating those changes, you all went from a very centralized operation that was really specific in how you were able to accomplish the tasks, able to distribute, to like a very, spread out, more localized sort of. So it feels like you not only had just sort of the logistics of, masking, distancing, but also, delivery as being a pretty big change of how that happened. So I would say I almost can't imagine a way that a program would have to change any more than that. But it feels like you had to make that change really, really quickly. I know you described just maybe the day that the mayor made the announcement and you just sort of started watching all of your volunteer shifts canceling, and then what you had to do after that, like sending them one message, sending them another message. Can you tell us a little bit about what that was like?
Yeah, that was it's hard to go back and think about that. I like seeing all the stars of the folks that joined recently. I've been here 9 years, and that day, or that time was really difficult. And we knew that things were kind of happening, and everyone's kind of looking out about what was going to happen. And Twitter is headquartered in San Francisco, and the day that they announced that they were going to go remote, I guess a lot of people saw that, and we did 3,000 people canceled their reservations immediately. The calendar which started to diminish, and everyone was unsigning up basically. And so we, I guess, panicked. Sure, we panicked a little bit. We're like, we need people to do this, and so we put together some emails and emailed all kinds of people that have volunteered in the past and said, we don't need you. We're gonna stay open, and we're gonna keep distributing food. And so please come in and volunteer. And like Erica said, it was corporate groups before, they had canceled. Individuals filled up all the spots again, which was amazing. And then a couple of days later, the mayor announced that there was a cap on number of people that could be inside at once. And so, all the shifts of 50, we couldn't do anymore. They had to be 20 people or something. And so then we had to email everyone back and say, we really appreciate it, but we can't have you all. And so if some of you want to cancel, that would be amazing. Or try and sign up for a different day. And it was, so we did that. And then the numbers kept going down and down of what we could and couldn't do. And we kind of figured out that we were going to have to operate outside. And I think Erica talked about building a tent. We put up a huge catering tent in the parking lot and built grocery bags there. We transitioned to more home delivery and started doing some of the pop-ups, and really had to just work with the staff and the operations team and the programs team to figure out what kind of programming they wanted to do and could do. And then they asked us to help fill the space with volunteers.
So the programming and operations they were probably the ones who were responsible for assessing like what needed to happen. How are we going to meet our community where they're at? How are we going to do this really quickly and specifically? Because I feel like that seems like maybe the greatest challenge that y'all went through is just that logistical. So were they the ones on the phone calling like these local, spots, schools and everything that they could reach out to use the parking lots? Like, is that how that worked for y'all?
Totally. We're fortunate to be a large enough organization that there are different teams and programs within the organization. And so the program team is on the ground. They're the public-facing side that works with the partners and the participants, and so they kind of have their finger on the pulse of what's going on, and really push to make sure that we were continuing to serve everybody. We knew that as hard as the pandemic was for people that were employed, for us at the food bank who were still employed and we're doing pretty well, folks that were out of work or were struggling really needed to make sure that we could still serve them, and so they would do the research and find the places and build the relationships, and then turn to us and say, here's what we need to make sure we need in terms of labor from volunteers.
I think what stood out to me, Cody, when you shared that earlier too, is it was cross-departmental. So whether cross-departmental is really cross-human, you have 2 people at your organization, or you have 2 departments, or you have 20 departments, there's something so powerful to be working in lockstep, that you were able to know that what you were filling was what matched what they needed, because they also were listening to the voices that were coming to play. I think that's something that gets left behind sometimes when we move too fast. We don't have alignment within the organization to say we're all in lockstep. We all know what we're going to do next together. So we know right hand, left hand are coordinated. I just wanted to pull that out. But the other part I would love to hear more too is you mentioned like you guys have a practice of pilot programs and you like testing things and trying them and seeing what works. And I think, we even talk, Cord, a lot about failing fast. It's okay to fail fast. You learn something, you iterate, you try again. So I would love to hear a little bit of that as the group is listening to you start to bring in kind of recruitment and retention and practices you guys use. How do you test something? How do you guys do that? What does a pilot look like for you all? And how do they put something that together? If it's something, we're going to try something different and it's okay if we fail, we're going to learn something from it. So I'd love to hear some more about that too.
If you don't mind, Cody, I'd love to just give the example of one of our warehouses opened November of 2020, and it was for our home delivered groceries program, because that program pre-pandemic was serving 250 households a week. And at the peak of the pandemic, it was serving 12,000. And when we moved into this space, we didn't know how it was going to work. I started a week before we opened this location. So when I came in, I met with our operations team, our operations manager who runs the project and shows the volunteers what to do and gets the bags out, and our program manager who oversees home delivered groceries. And I remember walking in and they were like, okay, how do we figure out how we can do this? This is the space we're working with. We don't really know how many folks it's going to take to get it done, to build the 1,500 bags we needed to. And it was just a lot of communication. It was so much talking, not just within the organization of like, okay, we need to serve 1,500 households today. Operations has enough food for that. Cool. We weighed all that out and, okay, we need X amount of volunteers, but it was also communicating with the volunteers. It was letting them know as they came in, like, hey, bear with us. This is day one. We're going to be testing a lot of things. It may not stay this way. Please let us know what works, what doesn't. And kind of knowing that we were going to fail. Like there was, a little bit of us like, we're not going to put all our eggs in one basket and it's going to go amazing. Like we're going to have to fix things. And I think that that's something that really helped, is just kind of knowing that there are going to be things we can fix in the moment. Maybe it's, the apples don't do great at the front of the line. They'll do better at the end. Let's move that pallet. And then there's certain things that we know, okay, this is not working right now. We're going to adjust it next week. And so with that, it was talking to our volunteers and letting them know, hey, we know 20 volunteers wasn't ideal. It was really heavy work. And those 2.5 hours felt really long and we're all sweating and we're tired. The team is tired. Next week, we're going to up that number. We know we need 35 volunteers. And it really was just communicating, accepting the misses and acknowledging this didn't work and we're going to change it, and taking that feedback and letting everybody kind of know what was going on. Because I feel like that really just helps. Everyone knows we're a part of this and we know it's not going to go okay. My feedback's going to be heard and things will be changed. I am being heard and it's going to go in. And I think also, for our frontline staff, they are really the key players, because they're the ones out there with our volunteers. They're the ones doing the hard work with them. And it's not just our volunteers out there, in the heat or breaking a sweat, lifting 50-pound bags, but we have a team out there too that's like, I'm here to do this with you and I'm here to help you and support you just how you're helping and supporting us. So that communication piece of just accepting the losses and knowing when to change and letting everybody know, okay, this didn't work, we're going to do this next, so that people are aware, okay, next time I come in, it's not going to be as bad, or it's only going to get better from here.
I have a question from our attendees. Someone said at their food bank, they've seen programs change a lot through the course of the pandemic and post-pandemic as needs of the community change. How do you keep volunteers engaged when the motivating factors that brought them into the work have shifted? And how often do you send messaging to volunteers about current needs in your community? I'll pass that over to Cody and Erica.
Yeah, I think we've seen the same. Our home delivered groceries program, we're serving about 10,000 households each week now. So that need has decreased slightly. We know that there is still a need out there and that we're not meeting everyone who we could be serving, but we also know that we need to be sustainable and we have to do what we can with the amount of product we're getting. We know that there's supply chain issues, and really keeping folks engaged, I think, is just, again, communicating and letting them know the changes, explaining to them why things are changing. So for our home delivered groceries, as example, sorry, if you can't tell, I'm a little biased because that is the program I'm the closest to. We know that many folks now, our partner pantries are coming back up. We have partner agencies that are now online and many of our folks have moved. And so we have a few volunteer drivers who have mentioned, hey, I'm not serving them anymore, what's happening? And it's really us just kind of letting them know, well, our partner agencies are back up, we're supporting them. So we want to make sure that our participants are getting the best support and what works for them best. And the reality is sometimes we do have a few volunteers who are like, this isn't working for me. And it happens when you have so many folks coming into, with us becoming more efficient with the way that we are distributing food. Our need at each site for volunteers has decreased a bit. And so we've heard that as well. It doesn't seem like you need me. And, it's really explaining we're seeing more folks come out. Teams are coming out stronger than they were during peak of the pandemic. We know that some corporate is wanting to do more team building. And I think when we're explaining that to volunteers, there is a little bit of understanding of yes, I appreciate you being honest and transparent and accepting that we won't always have 100% retainment, that there are going to be folks that maybe this isn't what they're passionate about, but still being welcoming about that of you know what, we want you to also be happy. We want you to enjoy it as well. And if that's supporting one of our, we're not in competition with each other. We're all here. All the nonprofits are here to help the community. And we want them to know that there's no hard feelings. And so, yeah, so really just kind of communicating the goods and the bads. We send out a volunteer newsletter every week. We're fortunate that our team is a little bit big on our community engagement. And we can send out this newsletter where we can put updates and explain things that are coming up or changing. Actually, this next newsletter, we're going to talk a little bit about some changes at our main warehouse where our new cooler is up, and explaining why there may be some changes and shifts because of construction. And so, yeah, once a week. And then our programs team also, anytime we need to highlight something, it's posting it on social media, sending out an email to everyone on our system.
Want to
Yeah,
piggyback?
go ahead, Cody. I was going to say, it's like communicate is what I was going to say. What were you going to say?
Yeah, definitely that. And I think someone asked, we use Engaging Networks. That's the tool that we use. We also use a lot of mail merge. And so the Engaging Networks is a lot of general updates and things like that Erica was talking about. And in addition to the social media callouts, we will do targeted emails to programs when we know that we're short somewhere, something along those lines, and or we have to transition some of our programs still. We've been having to move a lot of the pop-ups just because the sites don't stay the same. And so when we have to move that, we have to make a new opportunity for them to sign up and get connected. And so we'll try to find the regulars and send them a message before anyone else and keep it private and say, like, you have a couple days to sign up. You're really important to us. We want to make sure that you can get in there because the opportunity wouldn't be the same if you weren't there. And it really is true because they've been coming for so long. And so we just try to make sure that we can get them in there and they feel a little bit special in that way because they are. And so that communication is really important too.
Yeah, if you've got a volunteer management system like Get Connected, where you can, tag people, you can see how long they've served, and then you can send them a specific message. I love that you are providing them that level of consideration because that's really thoughtful. It's really kind. And I think that people really appreciate that. And that's a huge part of retention and appreciation in general as well. So I love that y'all take the time to do that. One of the questions that I asked you before, and I just wanted to bring up for the group, is how do you feel like the community participants who are, receiving the food have felt about the way that things had to change or have shifted and everything? How has that really affected the community, and what was their response?
I think for the most part, the community is really thankful and appreciative of the work that we do. And of course, there's going to be things that come up, and especially when we deal with so much fresh produce and fresh goods, there's just going to be variation in products and things like that. And so we try to minimize that, of course, as much as possible and meet everyone's needs that they want. One of the things that we're really proud of and excited about is a participant volunteer program. And so at the pop-ups, we had, we'd ask volunteers from the community from all over to come in and serve and get involved. And it had a feeling of kind of like us, we're serving you, the participants. And it was hard to keep up with all the need that was there. Plus, we wanted to kind of break that down a little bit. And so we started to ask the participants if they would be willing to volunteer as well. And many of them have. And so it feels really different now. And so everyone talks a lot more, and all the volunteers are kind of the same and help each other out and get to know each other and share recipes. And it's really changed kind of the feel at the pop-ups and who is involved and how they're involved. And so we really like that a lot.
And just to add a little bit to that, with the changes that have happened during the pandemic, in the beginning, it was, we were all we were all wearing masks. We were just many were trying to get the bags, we're trying to get them out, go home, put them away. And I think now a piece that really, I think as humans we were missing was this engagement, like being able to talk to folks, getting to hang out, like Cody said, like chatting, sharing recipes. And at our pop-up pantries, we're back to a farmer's market style where participants have more choice on what they would like to take. But it also, I think, because we're not in this emergency response where we just need to get all these bags out, where we know how our work is working, what's great, what isn't. We kind of have been able to slow down, that it's really brought back that piece of, participants who maybe don't always see folks being able to engage with volunteers and getting to chat. And I think there's this reward both ways. We have schools that like to come out, and it's really great for students as well to kind of get to talk to folks in the community. And that's the feedback that we've gotten often, is just being nice, having someone to be able to just how are you? How's it going? 3 apples this week or 4, just the little things that I think we took for granted. And even with our home delivered groceries program, our volunteers are really critical because it is this almost like a wellness check. Like these are folks that don't always get to leave their homes or who have challenges leaving their homes. And it is just, 5 minutes of just, how are you? Is everything okay? And even within there, we get feedback. Our participants will let volunteers and are like, love the apples, but I'm a little over it, and that's feedback that comes back to us that we can then share with our programs team and our food resources team of like, hey, this is kind of what we're hearing.
And it seems like with the home delivery program, that's kind of thinking about how those shift requirements are really, really different for maybe something like the pop-up pantry versus the home delivery program. And how do you all determine, the amount of training and onboarding that each program will have? And how do you handle communicating that with volunteers as well?
I think one of the things we've always tried to do is make it, we'll have as few barriers as possible for people to sign up and get involved. And for all of the opportunities, except for home delivery, like you could sign up today and show up in an hour and get to the shift, the orientation, and everything will happen in that 2.5 hour time frame. So we'll teach you how to do the work. We'll tell you about the food bank, and then we'll get you in there and you can roll up your sleeves and be involved right away. And that's because there's staff there, they're supervising, they're supporting you with it. HDG or home delivered groceries is a little more challenging in that when volunteers sign up for it, they get participant names and addresses and phone numbers and information. They have to drive their own cars, and so there's a background check for that program specifically. It can take about a week sometimes to get started, and so it's not quite as immediate a gratification. I will say the connection that the drivers make with the participants can be much deeper at times because they may spend more time at the door and chatting and doing the wellness check. And so it is really just trying to be honest and straightforward about what that need is and what is required. One of the things that we went through, there's been ages to the pandemic, and at one point we were really short with volunteers, and we put out this huge push on social media and traditional media and to volunteers. And we just said we really need people to volunteer, and a lot of people signed up, and it was great. But then they arrived to the shift, and we were still masking and social distancing and all that. And a lot of people were really uneasy with the setup. They felt the need to come and volunteer, but they got there and they're like, this is not for me. It's too heavy, or it's like that person's standing too close to me, or I don't want to wear a mask, or I do want to wear a mask. And so we had a huge uptick in volunteers, but we also had a lot of people that didn't come back. And so I think from that, I learned to just really make sure that we communicate what the needs truly are and what it's going to be like, and not sugarcoat it, because that might bring people in the short term, but they might not stay. And it'll put our staff in difficult situations, because then instead of just managing the project, they have to help calm the person or coach them through the shift or whatever it is. And so trying to reduce that as much as possible for our staff is helpful.
Yeah, it feels like communication. It's like really getting all those nuts and bolts pieces of saying, this is exactly what you might expect, or this is a requirement, like a background check is a requirement for home delivery, a mask is a requirement for this venue, or you have to be, comfortable with this amount of weight, or the weather. I know we've talked about the weather, especially like if you had to move operations under a tent outdoors. Really just being very honest with people about that from the beginning. So it feels like getting those nuts and bolts figured out for yourself, for your organization, for your program, and then really communicating that. And it feels like a lot of questions that I'm seeing come in, and I might pitch a couple of them over to you all, are coming in from other volunteer leaders in attendance that are asking questions about how to communicate. So it looks like some folks are using Facebook and Instagram to communicate with volunteers. And I know that you use your Get Connected system to communicate directly once someone has signed up, but what are the other specific tools that you use for your newsletter as well?
For the newsletter? Yeah, no, thank you for that. The newsletter is Engaging Networks. It's a lot like MailChimp or Salsa. There's a lot of different clients that you can use for that software to purchase, I think. We also do plenty of mail merging and exporting out of Get Connected and sending there. And we also send directly through Get connected. One of the things we like is when people sign up, they get a confirmation email, and then one week before they get a reminder email, and one day before they get another reminder email. So that's really helpful. Eric talked about the team that we have. So we have our community engagement team that does lots of outreach, like going to high schools, doing lunch and learns at businesses and corporations and that kind of stuff, and constantly emailing and calling and doing Zoom calls. The home delivered grocery team is complex enough that there's another team that takes on communication there, and they send out emails directly to drivers as well. And so we're just really trying to up the communication. And I think someone mentioned details, making sure that I think looking at where the volunteer is in their journey. And so at the beginning, it's like, you should get involved, and here's how it benefits you. And then as you get closer and closer to the shift, it gets more and more detailed and logistics based. And it's less flowery. It's like, you need to be here at this time to do this and wear these shoes and all that kind of stuff.
That's really great insight, Cody, because I feel like what you're saying is maybe a little more like general to specific. Like the more someone becomes involved, you're sharing more of the details. Because one of the questions that we've got coming through is, how do you reach your volunteers with communications and get them to actually read? We send out a newsletter once a month, but it's not long, with straightforward asks. We also include something fun in there too. Volunteers will open, but not take the action to sign up. Do you feel like maybe increasing from once a month would be helpful? Or do you think maybe just it says it's like easy asks, like maybe the CTAs? We've got a really great article on our blog about how to write a call to action to get people to sign up. But what do you feel like has been sort of the magic for you all to actually get those signups coming in through your newsletter or through these other avenues?
I think something that has really helped us, end of last year, October of last year, we actually had someone join our team who does recruitment and outreach. And something that's been helpful was having someone who it wasn't a machine. It wasn't the generic kind of email. I think sometimes we also see that even with sending our newsletter every week, although I wish everyone would open it. We know that some folks just click through and don't always read it. And even with our pre-shift emails where we're like, this is what you need to wear, we know that those also don't always get fully read. And it's been really helpful to kind of have someone who is on the phone. I think that that's something, like being able to talk to another human, with teams, allowing teams to come back. Sometimes we'll have a team of, it'd be 20 folks who are signed up. And it is really easy for them to forget how many they signed up for, or that they even have a shift. And so having someone who is like, hey, like our coordinator's name is Alex, like having someone who is, hey, I'm Alex, I am reaching out. This is me drafting this email. It's not a copy and paste. Here's my number, give me a call. Like, I'd love to chat. And I think that that has really made a big difference with making sure that folks are coming, especially when you have these bigger groups that really can make or break a shift. Our shifts are, if we have capacity for 30 and 20 don't show up, that leaves us with 10 volunteers, and it can be really rough during the shift. But not only getting these reminder emails that are a little bit more template based, but also hearing from someone who's a human, who's like, hey, I see you're not here. A little bit of finger waving, I would say, of like, hey, we're following up with you, and if we don't hear from you, you're going to lose that shift. So I think that that's been something that personally we've seen make a difference. Having someone at these lunch and learns, at lunch events, schools, corporate, talking about what we're doing, why it's important, why we need volunteers, and what it's going to look like when you sign up. And then having someone who is getting on the phone and saying, hey, haven't heard from you. Hope you're coming. We really hope your team's going to make it. So I think it adds a little bit of extra pressure.
I think we also, in addition to like that, we have plenty of carrot as well to go with the stick, right? And so it's a very gentle stick, but we try to thank people a lot. Like that's really important, and like that's a really easy way to get in contact. Where if all the emails are like, we need you, like, that may be true, but also trying to frame it as like, hey, we appreciate you. We know that you volunteered this many times or for this many hours or whatever in the past year, or collectively volunteers have done this much and it's helped this many people, really helping show the impact. And so thanking people is really big. We also try to profile different volunteers and say, like, this is our volunteer of the month, or this is here's a face behind the work. And we also recently talked to some of our staff and written up a little bit about them to share in the newsletter. And so this is maybe someone that volunteers will see when they're volunteering, and just try to help people see the humans behind it as well, and or talk about the programs, and so people understand more about kind of the bigger picture. I think someone mentioned a survey. We do have a survey that goes out after every shift, so people can give us their feedback in that way. We've also started asking people to share photos and a little story from when they volunteer, and there's another form for that. And so we can look at that and share it with our marketing team, or like we can use that for the weekly email. And so trying to get volunteers to create content for us in that way, or share their information anyway.
Cody, before we move into kind of the technology piece here, because I think let's hit a little bit more on that in-person that you're talking about. Like, do you guys have a goal of how many times you want someone thanked when they're in person during their shift? And then again, I think, we've heard about emails, setting expectations, sharing as much as we can, but when they step inside your door, like, what is your in-person process to make sure, again, you've reiterated everything you've hoped that they read prior to showing up? What does that look like? Is it the same for every shift? I think we've had some of those. In my mind, it's 50-50. You got all this front work, but then when they're on site, Erica said something about, we get lots of feedback. We get tons of communication because we're asking and we're talking to them. We're side by side on a line. So I'd love to hear it for the audience, just what you guys do there, because you have powerful communication in person as well.
Part of every shift that we hope for is an orientation. And that varies depending on location or the experience, based on like who's coming in. Sometimes we have all first timers, sometimes we have all regulars. Usually it's a mix of both, but we try to give a little bit of background about the organization, of course, thank them over and over again, and talk about the impact that they're going to have, and then talk about logistics. And it's kind of like writing an essay, and at the end of the shift we reiterate all of that again, and we try to talk about exactly how much they did. And so how much food did you pack, or how many people did we serve today, or whatever it is, just so they have that number. And they have a number to go along with their sore muscles at the end of the shift, to know that like they did the work. And then we'll ask them to sign up again, or share the word with someone else, and just keep spreading the word, and put it on social media as well.
Yeah. I was going to add on, we also, I think, with our shifts, it's not just community engagement who's working with volunteers. Sometimes the first person that they may have met via email, phone call, but oftentimes when they're at a pop-up pantry, it's our programs team. If they're in a warehouse, it's our project lead team. So it's also us working with them. And, like if we know someone is coming and they maybe need a specific role, like we're communicating that with our team so that there aren't any surprises, and we'll communicate like, hey, we have this group coming in, or, some of our volunteers are donors. And so we'll say like, hey, like they're coming in as well. And I think our team knowing that also is just treating everybody the same, and like everyone should leave with a really great volunteer experience. And it really helps them when we're communicating with them, so that they know, so that they're like, oh yeah, we know what to expect. We know what's going to happen. And they do a lot of training with us on like our orientations and what that looks like. And I think that volunteers enjoy, like, it's not, I wish I could say that everyone loves to read my emails and that I am the face volunteers want to see all the time. It's not the case, right? Like they see me every once in a while. Yeah, they get my emails, but they love working with our programs team, our project lead team, who are there with them, who are like, yeah, I'm here because I want to work with you. Like they're the partnerships. I think that also makes the experience really great, is that from beginning to end, they're having a great experience, and the same experience with everybody from the food bank.
I think too, and I would love for AK to drop the San Francisco-Marin website and Get Connected volunteer site, because I think you all do a really great job in all of your communications of infusing exactly that experience that people are having in person with you, it feels that way when I'm looking at your website. It feels that way when I'm looking at your volunteer opportunities. So all of it feels really consistent to me. You know, when I'm looking at the volunteer opportunities on the calendar, I'm feeling exactly what you're describing to me. And so I think it's a really great example of just kind of having that cohesive message experience across like an email and in person. What's our website saying? What's our social media saying? And really seeing that it's consistent with who you are as an organization, and also the volunteer experience. And it is really geared towards recruitment too, because I felt like when I looked at your site, and I live on the other side of the country, I was like, I want to go there and sign up. I can't wait to go visit so that I can go hang out and get all of Erica's emails and open every single one of them. So that's how I felt when I saw everything. So I would just love it if AK could drop that in the chat so everyone can check out the work that y'all are doing. And here's some screenshots of their Get Connected site with all the opportunities that they've got going on. And you all do a really great job too of sort of sectioning off your urgent volunteer opportunities so that people, if they're looking to sign up for something quickly, know like where you have the most need. And I think that again is like the communication piece of what you're doing to say like, actually, this is where the most need is. So if you have some time and you can do this, like, here's where we need you now. I feel like that's, a really great special thing, because a lot of times I'm noticing that I don't really know what's the best, where do you need me most? Like, I don't know, because if I am a little more flexible, I would definitely want to go where you've needed me most. And then let's kind of talk about, this here is a little graph I made of sort of all of these pieces that we're talking about, because recruitment and retention and community needs and changes, it's a lot. So how do you start to kind of pull these pieces apart and not feel like you're getting lost in the swirl? As I know, probably a lot of us felt that way in 2020. It's been a challenge. And also, Eric, I really appreciated your saying like things aren't going to go back to what they were pre-pandemic. We're living in a different world now. Things have changed, and now it's time to kind of move forward and keep innovating and keep meeting those community needs. So just kind of broken down a lot of the things that we've talked about. And I'm going to pitch you all a couple of questions that are coming in. I think you mentioned this a little bit earlier, Cody, about, a lot of appreciation, but we've got one question that says, how have you approached or changed incentives regarding retention? What sort of things do you provide to your volunteers in exchange for their time to assist in investment? I'm not super sure I fully understand. So if you have a clarifying question, let me know. But I'm curious, are there any other incentives provided for volunteers outside of appreciation?
Yeah, I like this question, and it's always such a tightrope to walk, right? We want to appreciate volunteers with something nice, but when it's too nice, they get angry is too strong a word, but they get annoyed that we're spending funds that we should be using to buy food on them volunteers. Some do, and others are like, I guess, give me all the gear. And other people are like, no, you should spend this on food. And so it is a really interesting balance that we have to strike all the time. But we try to have a little gift each year. We have a series of pins that we've made that have the year on it. And so as they serve a certain number of hours each year, they'll get a pin. They kind of collect those. And then we've done shirts and hats and water bottles. Pro tip, do things that are not sized, because if you have t-shirts, they're great, but it's really hard to manage the sizing. Erica did a lot of that for a really long time. Water bottles were not that popular with our audience for some reason, with our volunteers. And we also try to throw a party in April during Volunteer Appreciation Month. It's called Vol Fest, and so we've done it 3 times now. And just try to, have donated food and bring people together and have a good time. It's funny, after the first couple of years of that, people were saying they wanted to hear from leadership, because that would show that leadership would value the volunteer program. And then we had our VP of development there speaking for a little bit. And after the feedback after that this year was that people wanted to hear more from the staff that they work with on a more regular basis. And so, there's always people, you can't please everybody, but, giving them little gifts and having events for them are things that we think volunteers like.
Something else that we've also done is we have some of the partnerships we have with like local companies, organizations in the community. Like we have a few pizza shops that will give us like $10 off coupons or a free small pizza. And something that we'll do sometimes is we'll raffle those. And it'll be like, if you volunteered over 50 hours this year, your name is in the raffle. And that's also really fun because it's something that's small. It's something that, you know, I think as Cody was mentioning, we definitely get quite a few volunteers very upset when we're purchasing gifts for them rather than purchasing more food. So it's nice to kind of say like, this was donated, like this came from this, you know, a local vendor, and we wanted to give it to you guys and raffle it off. So that also, because we'll cap it at a certain amount of hours served.
I think that's a really fun idea. I love that. Yeah. What are you going to say?
I was going to pose a question just to say, I'm seeing some in the chat where, you know, I think the beauty of what you do is very tangible. You can talk about like the pounds packed. There's always something, an active activity waiting on the volunteers. So for those who have joined that don't have as much of that physical activity that's just right there, I've been in a couple of conferences recently where they're kind of talking about, I'm throwing this at you spontaneously, so I'm curious if you don't, we'll go to the next question. But they're throwing that moment of like, helping the volunteer orient that it's not just about getting the project done, that part of the mission is the volunteer is the project, that you want them to understand and come away with a new understanding of food insecurity, of what your participants are going through, why this cause matters. Have you guys had some projects you've started to think about that in intentional ways where they show up ready to do something, they want to work, but you're really trying to say, that's not all we're here to do. We're trying to accomplish something where we're getting you as a new advocate or a deeper understanding of what we face in our community. So I'm just curious, because I know that's so hard when you don't have a tangible project always waiting on a volunteer to touch. So this is that piece that I think some people need more advice in.
If you don't mind, Cody, I was going to say one thing that we have done in the past and we're actually working on bringing back. And if I think this is the name, sorry, Cody, if it's not, is Hunger 101, where we have folks, usually students, where they won't work a shift, they won't be packing food, but it's like a simulation. Each person will get, it'll say, you know, like you're a single mom and this is how much you make each week. These are your bills. These are your expenses, and this is what you have left over. How would you use that to purchase groceries? What resources could you use? And I think that is something that one of the things that I thought about is really kind of just putting the knowledge out there of how hard it is, you know, because these are real life situations, and having folks who maybe aren't going through that understand that like this is something that does exist, and especially with the younger crowds, like students, getting them involved at a younger age in a way where, you know, sometimes at some of our volunteer shifts you have to be 16 or older, 13 or older, and maybe they're not old enough to be there just because it's maybe too heavy work, but it's a way to get the kind of knowledge out there, planting that seed, so that in the future and as they grow, they will be involved more in, for us, food insecurity or whatever program it is. So that was something, and I don't know if I missed anything in that, Cody.
No, I think that was great, and I just want to acknowledge that food banks I think are really different from other places. I've worked at a lot of nonprofits, and the ask for volunteers there's a lot of advantages for food banks, and so like that's just true and helpful in a lot of ways. We are working with our advocacy team and seeing if they might have some opportunities for people to get involved where it's maybe a little less tangible. You know, you don't feel the food quite the same way. But something that is interesting is, so we mentioned the clean room where it's like we might pack rice or cereal or oats or beans, and without fail, there's always somebody or a few people each year like, why don't you just get a machine to do this? And because it'd be way more efficient. And you know, with our theme of kind of just being open with them, we talk about how like, well, if that, number one, it'd be really expensive probably, but also you wouldn't have to come in here, and we want you to come in and be involved in this and like feel the food and see the work and all that kind of stuff. And so in that way, it is something that's beneficial for them to just come in and experience it, and not just have it all be behind the scenes and not be seen.
I love that. There's so many different angles for value. I mean, I think we actually didn't talk about it. We talked about it a lot in the prep, but you know, value can be having that volunteer experience where they walk away not project-based, but experience or education-based. One we talked about in the prep work was efficiency, being able to prove a value of something, whether it's the software that you needed to be more efficient. In your case, we were talking about bags, that efficiency of getting a stronger bag. I didn't want to not bring that up in case you had a provider you wanted to share with the group, but having a bag that didn't need to be double bagged changed an entire shift for you all, and being able to prove a value behind that then made it make sense to get a better bag so that you could process it so many more pounds of food. Like, I love those pieces where it's just listening and watching, improving the cycle, listening and watching, improving the volunteer experience. There's no, I would say, as you said, Cody, there's no one perfect right answer. And as I think Grace chimed in, it's a dream to do this all perfectly, but it's a lot of challenges and just keeping at it. And so, yeah, feel free to drop some more bag information. So I just didn't want to let you not have a plug for that. It's so practical. So
yeah, I should have grabbed the name. I didn't, but it was something that was really great because the bag we needed did not exist. And it was something that we were so ready to, like that kind of, we can't call it quits, right? Like we may not have a solution in that moment, but it was something that we were like, okay, what can we do? What can we do? And then we ended up having to find a vendor, and they're actually local. They're in, I believe, the South Bay of California, but they created a bag for us that could do it, which was just really amazing. And also just a reminder of like how little things and ways that the community can get involved, and in a way that like sometimes we forget, like how, like sometimes it's like, oh, well, my company doesn't know how to get involved. Well, we had a bag vendor create a special bag for us. So there's always a way to get involved.
Absolutely. I've got a few more questions here in the last 5 minutes, and just want to let everyone know that everyone who registered is going to receive an email on Monday with the recording and tons of bonus resources. You're going to get a planning guide based on all of the resources, some additional articles from our Get Connected Learning Center, and of course, links so that you can go check out what San Francisco-Marin is doing. And so we're just going to take the last couple minutes here to see if we can answer a couple more of these amazing questions that are coming through while we've got Cody and Erica here with us. So are you all experiencing that one and dones as far as people signing up for one shift is happening a lot more? Is that acceptable? Or do you ask for people to do more regular shifts? The question looks like it's about, people are juggling a lot, work, school, family, and it's harder to find volunteers who can do regular shift or stay long-term. What are you seeing happen?
We definitely see plenty of one and done volunteers. And it's kind of okay. In some ways, obviously, it'd be great to have people come back and return and return and return. But we also really try to look at every project and look at each task within the project and try and make it as plug and play as possible. And so, like when someone rises to the shift, if they are, distributing things, like your job is to get the carrots from here and put them in there, and so you can learn it in 5 minutes or less than that probably, and then you can do it for 2 hours and, try to move people around and experience different things and have a good experience and thank them and make sure they see the impact of what they do so they want to come back. But if they don't, it's also okay because it's simple enough task that another person can pick it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
But try to upsell them so they can come back, Sorry.
How do you keep the enthusiasm for that going? That's another question we've got going. Like when you're recruiting folks, how do you keep the enthusiasm to keep them stick around, or how to develop them as volunteers? And then also another question too is like, how do you ensure that they actually sign up or that they actually show up once they've signed up? That seems like, so getting them to actually show up on site once they have taken a spot, and then also keeping them enthusiastic.
I think keeping folks enthusiastic, our shifts are pretty fun. Our team will play music. Some team members don't take requests, others do, but it's setting a really great atmosphere, being super friendly from the very beginning, answering questions, giving them information. And then oftentimes with our first timers or folks who maybe haven't volunteered with us in a while, we'll partner them with some of the regulars. So if we have maybe 2 or 3 regulars in the shift, we'll partner them with them. And our regulars kind of do a little a little retaining for us, because they talk to them and they tell them like why they are there, and they'll not only like help them guide them through the shift, which is also really helpful because sometimes we have maybe 1 or 2 staffers during the shift, but they also get to share their experience. And I think sometimes if we have a group of 10, if like 2 of them kind of walk away like, I really like this, I want to do this regularly, I want to find a place close to my home, it's a win.
Absolutely. And it feels like those, I want to sign up just so I can come to Vol Fest too. So if I can sign up and come to Vol Fest, that would be pretty amazing, and come see you all in your area. Well, we are coming close here to the top of the hour. And so I want to make sure that I give a big thank you to Cody and Erica from San Francisco-Marin Food Bank for joining us. We know that your time as volunteer leaders is precious. So we wanted to say thank you for coming and sharing so openly with everyone who's joined. And thank you to every one of you volunteer leaders who came to join us live today. We've got a few special things. Actually, I'm going to be drawing a couple of names after the webinar. We're going to be giving away 2 spots to attend the MAVA virtual volunteer engagement conference coming up at the end of July. So everyone, if you attended live today, you could have a chance to win. So be looking for a potential email from me for that. And again, just want to let you know that we're Get Connected by Galaxy Digital, and we're a network of 50,000 nonprofits. And actually, I believe we have about 2.3 million volunteers on our platform now. We've got volunteer management solutions for every organization, program size, and budget. So please reach out to us at info@galaxydigital.com if you want to learn more. San Francisco-Marin Food Bank is using Get Connected, and so they're members of our Get Connected network. So we're just really overjoyed to have you all with us today. And again, if we couldn't get to everyone's questions, I want to let you know to visit our Learning Center at Galaxy Digital, the blog there. We've got the web address there. We have so many resources. There's 300 plus resources there for volunteer leaders, from everything from how to write a social media caption, to communications plans, to streamlining your registration and your sign up. We have got resources for you. So please come hang out with us on the Galaxy Digital blog, because it's all about volunteer leadership there. And again, just want to say thank you, Cody and Erica and Elizabeth and AK from our team, and everyone who came today. I'll be sending you this email very, very soon. And so thank you for coming.
I was just going to say, yeah, that attitude. Thank you for being all the people you are across the continents. You know, it's that attitude of coming in every single day and making people serving with you feel appreciated and welcome, and doing it every day, even when you don't feel it. I think that is what's so special about Cody and Erica, about all of you who joined us today. I hope you can bring that smile to the people you're working with, because having you here is always what makes Court and me so very happy. So thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Cody. Bye, Erica. I'll see you soon.
Thank you.